In a world full of beans and orcs, one man sets out to remedy the problem. One man? No. One pup.
Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we're going to be playing with a Jeskai Control decklist. Now, if you're following Legacy closely right now, you probably know that Jeskai is not particularly a common color combination right now. Up the Beanstalk is just an amazing source of card advantage, and most of the control decks are built around that. In Legacy of the past year, we've seen control decks built around Uro and the One Ring, but Up the Beanstalk is just super, super, super popular right now. And the other thing that's really popular is the Grief, Reanimate, Scam shell. That is currently just very particularly powerful, but you are especially seeing it within the blue-black Scam Reanimator, like hybrid tempo deck list. So today we're looking to see how does it feel to be a Jeskai mage. Forth Eorlingas threatens to create both a large amount of power at once and also threatens to take the Monarch, drawing you a card for the rest of the game, allowing you to catch up from things like an early game Grief plus Reanimate taking two of your best cards. Or it allows you to keep up, at least to some extent, with the card advantage from Up the Beanstalk. So let's take a look at the deck list. So this is what we're working with. We have a relatively basic land-heavy Jeskai Control deck list that can afford to play Blood Moon in Game 1, which can be a strong answer to powerful cards like Urza's Saga, and Dress Down as well as Supreme Verdict can help you clear out those tokens. This deck is going really deep on Narset. Right now, you tend to see more black than anything else as hate for cantrips, especially in the form of Orcish Bowmasters. But this deck has the full playset of Narset, as well as 2 copies of Hullbreacher in the sideboard, with the overall game plan of at least some portion of the time casting a Day's Undoing. And Day's Undoing, when it's a mutual draw 7 that ends your turn, is pretty unexciting. But when it is a one-sided draw 7, that is effectively an I win the game button. It takes a while to happen, but unless you're dead on board, this is probably enough resources that your opponent is just not going to come back from that. We are relatively light on actual factual win conditions. You don't see Triumph of St. Catherine here. We have the 3 copies of Forth Eorlingas as well as the Comet Stellar Pup. And, that's it. A note on the mana base, as we are playing a lot of basics, we are a Prismatic Vista fetchland deck, which means that we don't really get to play a Surveil land, and the Surveil land doesn't play particularly well with our Blood Moon anyway. We'll see how the sideboard fares today. We have a lot of powerful but narrow cards that we can hope to dig to with our cantrips, and we do have an additional copy of Blood Moon in the sideboard as well. So let's fire up a league. Let's see how Jeskai Control feels. And if you find you need any cards, maybe some preview cards from Outlaws at Thunder Junction, check out toamagic.com. That is Tales of Adventure. If you want fast, free, tracked shipping, and you want to be able to order all your cards in one place instead of getting a whole bunch of envelopes from a whole bunch of retailers from other websites, this is your place to order. With that being said, let's battle. All right. Looking at this opening hand, I'm not particularly excited about this. Like, I have a force effect to get me through whatever initial thing my opponent is doing, and then from there I'm hoping to take the Monarch on turn 3. It's fine versus combo, but I'm kind of unexcited about this. I have 1 cantrip that does not offer selection. Maybe this is fine on the draw, but I'm not really excited about this. With no reps with this specific control deck, I'm not 100% sure. Street Wraith, maybe Death's Shadow? Signs point to yes. Since I don't have any initial removal and this is going to start scaling up immediately, I am fine pitching the Force of Negation here. All right, and we don't get dazed, which is nice. That's not really what I'm hoping for right now. It's possible I'm supposed to play tapped Mystic Sanctuary there and open myself up to Wasteland, rather than trying to hold this Mystic Sanctuary for a little bit later on. I'm cold to the Reanimate if my opponent has one. They get to do that. And it scales up. We're looking for white removal. We have a decent amount of it, plus cantrips to find it. That's not really what I'm looking for either. So in theory, I want to remove this creature and then clear the board. That's fine. Sure. I'm fine taking 2 here. Going to 17. I think second main phase, I'm just going to play a dress down so that this doesn't scale up and so that I just turn this into a new card. Mana's ever so slightly awkward here. I think despite... maybe I don't. Because I want this to be red, white, basic island blue. Maybe that's me being too conservative. It's not like I'm going to play the Forth Eorlingas directly into onboard creature anyway. Yeah. Let's just draw a card, see if anything fun happens in response like a Bowmaster. I get a Force of Will. Not super interested in that. Hey, a Swords is great. Let's maybe Island Cycle. A little awkward because it drops the Force of Will. We'll use this to pick up red mana. I'll play that, pass the turn with the intention of probably opponent's upkeep. Swords to Plowshares this. All right, my opponent says hello to YouTube. So there's Bowmasters. I probably Swords to Plowshares this over the Stalker. I don't want to potentially become the Monarch and then get pinged by this forever. Multiple copies of Forth Eorlingas here, just slightly awkward. My Mystic Sanctuary is also going to enter tapped. Not a perfect situation. My opponent's got a bunch of cards in hand. Ooh, that's almost very good. So, is there a world where I'm doing this to temporarily soak up some damage? Probably. I think as long as I get to this Supreme Verdict, I'm going to be in really good shape. I'm just going to take this as something that maybe gets a daze out of hand or a removal spell out of hand or something. Yeah, the daze is fine. That gets eaten by Supreme Verdict at some point in the not too distant future. I think I'm going to let that go. I'm going to take 2, 4, 5 damage and then hope that I can either Supreme Verdict and clear the board next turn, or I play Forth Eorlingas and generate some blockers, and that's fine too. No immediate fetch for the Brainstorm. I'll take my 5. Yikes. So I can Brainstorm, take 3 damage, and any fetch land or any white source clears this board. Or I can play a Forth Eorlingas for X equals 2. Generate 2 blockers, take 2-ish damage next turn. I don't actually have that many win conditions in my deck, so like that might not be correct. Because I've already blown 1 getting a daze out of hand. I think I'm just going to Brainstorm. Something we've said a decent amount on the podcast is that Orcish Bowmasters does not stop you from playing your cards. So, what don't I want right now? I'm not ready for this, I don't think. And my life total is going to be low enough that I don't think the Force of Will is particularly strong. One of my primary issues here is that a future Orcish Bowmasters just gets to go to my dome and kill me. But that's a future fill problem. Let's Verdict. Goodbye. I don't have Triumph in this deck, so I don't get to like gain life to turn fetch lands back on or anything. So kind of conceptually, I would like to use Narset to shut off my opponent's cantrips and then attempt to stabilize this game. I'm dead to like a Reanimate, yeah. That is acceptable. Again, I can't keep the Force of Will because I'm at 1 life. So conceptually, I would like to kill all of my opponent's creatures that they ever play. That is how I would like to win this. I'm not super excited about like the Force of Will effects. I'm going to like trim or cut those. Dress Down has some utility versus Bowmasters. I might end up keeping that. Blood Moon's probably okay. Probably just okay, but, you know. I'm interested in Pyroblast, I think, as a potential removal spell for some threats. If my opponent is on Murktide. You know, it can also fight over any number of other spells. I'll probably go up the extra Blood Moon as an I win button. I'll play Hullbreacher as additional blockers, honestly, for things like Orc tokens and Bowmasters, like treating this as a pseudo removal spell. This is an awkward card in the face of Bowmasters. It's like fine if I have a Narset first. Probably Priest to stop Reanimate. I'm not sure with like Hullbreacher and Containment Priest if that's enough for me to like not want to board Humility to shut off all Orcish Bowmaster nonsense. I'm also not sure if I keep this in as a singleton card, or if I'm better off keeping like one force. Well, let's keep this in as a singleton card. I'm really not excited about having the Forth Eorlingas this early in this matchup. I don't really know that I'm supposed to mulligan, but I want my hand to have like Swords to Plowshares and Prismatic Endings, not my finishers. 1 color, 2 color, 3 color. So this is Island into Ponder. Hey, these are much, much, much stronger cards. I want the Narset last, but I think I do want it. I think I'm going to hide the Swords to Plowshares on top. My Containment Priest may or may not come down before I could get like Grief and Reanimated here. This is a Sorcery Speed Brainstorm, which is potentially indicative of a Troll in my opponent's hand so that they can upkeep cycle. So here is the Grief. My opponent has Reanimate already. I probably lose Containment Priest. Well, we've read him like a book. I don't get to stop the Reanimate. I don't think I'm in that bad of a situation here. No upkeep cycle. Basic lands are good. So that's the Reanimate on the Grief. I'm obviously going to Swords in response to that to keep the board clear. And now the only question is, do I cycle Lorien Revealed? Ooh. Well, that happens. Drawing Narset with Grief already on board is a little awkward. I think I will just Island cycle to shuffle here. And we will just pick up another Island. We'll stay on basics for the time being. And then we're hoping to cantrip our way to another removal spell here. There's said cantrip. No. There's another cantrip. I am fine playing that. I might not play a removal spell immediately if I draw one, depending on what the cards look like. Oh, given that, I'm okay firing Swords into a Daze. Yeah. No shuffle. And Swords. Fantastic. If I need to Supreme Verdict in this exact turn cycle, it comes at the cost of whatever white land I fetch to Wasteland. And if I can wait a turn, it's different, because then I can use the Flooded Strand that's currently under it to fetch another basic Plains. Smells like Bowmaster, which makes playing this, I think, a little bit awkward. Like, this is either, like, clearly telegraphed Bowmasters or my opponent missed. Either way, I think I'm going to wait a turn. Oh. Something I talked about on the episode of the Eternal Glory podcast that I recorded this week, which probably is going to release on the Friday that this video comes out, is that if you can afford to play around Bowmasters to some extent, the card has much less of an impact. I think I'm going for it here. I think I'm going to create some critters. I think I do this for X is 2. Play around Daze. Force pitching Daze. Very happy I played around it. We're in a solid position. We've got stable mana. I've got an answer. Okay, so opponent's card here is just a random card. Okay. Stalker's fine. I can 1-for-1 that with Supreme Verdict if I'd like. I'd prefer not to. I think... I don't know, my opponent's on hardcast Grief mana, though. That would be a very brutal top deck. All right. I don't think I want to lose this to grief. I'm not on enough islands to just bring it back immediately. That may be me playing too scared. That's fine. My opponent is at 6 life. Mystic Sanctuary for 4th Eorlingas is representing a very easy kill, which I will do next turn probably. I'll take this 3. Opponent's actually got a really interesting line here. So if they wasteland my Flooded Strand in response to this fetch, I don't get to put Mystic Sanctuary into play. I guess I get around that by fetching, holding priority, fetching, which is pretty neat. So target 4th Eorlingas. Opponent should wasteland this. Well, probably. I don't know exactly what their hand is. Yep. So this is for X equals 3 playing around days. This is a lethal attempt. If my opponent has a removal spell, they're still alive, but in bad shape. Yep. So my opponent takes 4. Or rather takes 5, I guess, the trample. I become the Monarch, which does give them a little bit more power. Yeah, it's awkward, because like I could play around a Bowmaster block or removal spell by doing 1 more, but then I play into days, and my opponent's only showed 1 days this game. That's fine. You can become the Monarch and get your extra card. Okay, yeah. Let's see if I can use Narset to dig myself out of this. Well, that's not bad. Narset at the very least stops my opponent's Monarch nonsense and makes this non-symmetrical. Days Undoing is almost good. These are not the white removal spell that I was looking for. Or the... I guess I don't have a second Mystic Sanctuary. Pyroblast? Maybe I just take another Narset. Let's jam a Moon. Alright. I don't have a good attack here. As soon as I do have a good attack, my opponent is dead. However, I have an obligatory block on the Death Shadow. And I am otherwise on a Swift Clock. But if my opponent attacks with too many creatures, there is a very real chance that they just die to me finding a removal spell. And I am being attacked by Death Shadow. So I do have to block that. And my opponent is going to be prevented from drawing the card with Narset, so the Monarch stuff doesn't matter that much right now. So let's go fishing here. Supreme Verdict. That is totally fine right now. So there's a land drop. Let's go ahead and just Verdict here. My opponent does not have an island for days. I think that means I'm okay just playing another one of these so that I have one with higher loyalty. I think I'll minus immediately. I'll find a new 4th Eorlingas. Alright, and that's good enough for a win there. That guy got a little scary in the middle, and like, I think this game is a good illustration of why you don't see very much of this like Narset, Days Undoing stuff anymore. Like in the face of Bowmasters, which comes down on turn 2, Narset's loyalty is not particularly safe, and casting Days Undoing into a Bowmaster is like pretty sketch. This also, like, there is some very real amounts of tension with the Monarch card draw and Orcish Bowmasters as well. I just noticed that I was muted, and I'm not sure how long I've been muted for, so hopefully not very long. What I was saying is that playing Narset isn't necessarily great in the Bowmaster world, because Bowmaster comes down under Narset, and if you play Narset, your opponent responds with a Bowmaster ping, and then attacks and kills Narset, you don't actually get all that far ahead. And some of these like Days Undoing 4th Eorlingas win conditions that come with card draw attached can be very awkward in a Bowmaster world. My hand looks perfectly reasonable. Supreme Verdict is kind of a gem here. Containment Priest. Alright, so I have to plan my turn cycle here. Specifically, I'm thinking about my Brainstorm and getting that in before Bowmaster can come down. I think I'm going to want an upkeep stop. I am always fetching a basic island with this. And then I I guess I should do this in my opponent's upkeep instead. I think I will do an upkeep Brainstorm. And if I like the cards that I see, I will just hide Supreme Verdict on top of my library. This is a little bit too much mana. I'll probably put back a Lorien Revealed and 1 land or something here. And then plan on upkeep cycle Lorien Revealed. Probably 18. Yeah, I don't think I'll hold this up for this turn. I think this will just be a basic. That's fine. I don't think I need to ponder into Bowmasters here. Just make a line drop. Hey, it's that card I played around. This is A-okay. We're looking to dodge discard on my Supreme Verdict at this point. Otherwise, life's pretty good. We can totally play around that Wasteland. 16. Ooh. I'm good with just attempting that. I don't care if it gets countered. I don't think. Like, I have a Primo card that I would like to not get countered later on already. So let's jam. I don't care if I get dazed. I don't care if I get Force of Willed or Force of Negationed. Yep. That's fine. I don't know. I guess if that resolves, I do cut myself off of white-white. But, like, I'm not expecting it to resolve. Sure. I'm just in okay shape if the Blood Moon resolves, though. Grief. Grief's annoying. So now I want to slowly work towards enough islands to Mystic Sanctuary the Supreme Verdict back. Narset is a good distraction to make that happen. Let's cast her. Would love to find a white removal spell. Negative. I can play a Dress Down to shut off Orcish Bowmasters' ability. Or I can just take a new Narset to dig deeper, which I think I'm going to do. We'll see how many bodies end up going at this Narset. Alright, they don't play around swords. They didn't have to this time. Reanimate. Didn't have time to deploy Containment Priest here. That is entirely too much Narset. We need to find a white removal spell desperately. Force of Will right now is very, very, very bad. We dug 8 with Narset plus some draw steps and whiffed. So if I block something like an Orc, I take 6, 9, 10, which is lethal after this fetch. I think I am dead to a lot of stuff here. So let's ponder. This is going to be an Orcish Bowmaster ping. 2 Orcish Bowmaster pings. That is a disaster. Nope. Yeah, no, just we looked at a ton of cards there trying to look for a swords, and we just whiffed on all of it. I am dead. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists. And they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. All right, my first hand here has no blue mana, so this is a no-go. I don't really love this second hand, but I think I'm keeping. I've got Wasteland to think about. I don't super want to lead on Prismatic Vista because if I get the opportunity to Spell Pierce just about anything, I will fire it off. So I think I'm leading on Tundra and am just sad if my opponent wastelands me. All right. We'll just make a land drop and pass. This could be a control mirror of some kind. This could be Cephalid Breakfast. Hey, I think I'm just going to snap this off. There might be a better target later, but if this is a control mirror and I cut my opponent off of some mana stability, it's pretty good for me. Especially doing this and then, sticking one of these planeswalkers is kind of huge. Now the follow-up question is, which one of these do I play out immediately? Pick up red. I think I'm going to jam Narset. Shutting off cantrips sounds fine and dandy as of right now. Ooh. those are cards. I think I'm just going to take the Forth Eorlingas. I don't know exactly what my opponent is playing. And I think having the ability to put the pedal to the metal here is sweet. I think I'm into this line. I'm going to fetch, grab a basic. I'm going to cast Teferi. That way, if my opponent has Bowmasters, they're forced to use it now. Okay, so my opponent doesn't get to do hot flash stuff anymore. I'll pick up a Swords, which is great, and I think I'll just plus Teferi rather than trying to draw a card. So what's my opponent doing over there? Honor is the only game action that they have taken so far this game. This is potentially because my Narset is cutting them off of cantrips. So that's a Sorcery Speed Bowmaster that can ping and kill my Narset. And then they can cantrip. They don't get to do stuff at instant speed. I think I'm going to go ahead and just clear this, and then I can Teferi bounce the token and Forth Eorlingas for a gajillion D. Get out. Force of Will is reasonable. Yaw. I'll just keep getting basics. So we know this resolves. I'll ship in for 6, draw an extra card. Any blue card means that I can Force of Will a Bowmaster if my opponent plays that. And I also just do have Prismatic Ending, so, like, life's fine. We are pulling very far ahead very quickly here. Plus this. I think we're just going to win. The Mystic Sanctuary, put Forth Eorlingas on top. Yeah. Well, that was a savage beating. We know my opponent is in Esper colors and has Ponder and Swords to Plowshares in their deck. Cephalid Breakfast stands out to me as a strong possibility. It's possible that this is a Beans deck and I just didn't see green this game. I'm probably not going to sideboard too much. Like, I don't know whether or not I'm respecting Urza Saga or extra card draw. Pyroblasts are probably good. Blood Moon is probably good. Hullbreacher, probably good. And, like, some of the stuff like Dress Down, Containment Priest, Surgical is, like, unclear until I see more of my opponent's deck. Probably going to get rid of Days Undoing. I think I'll just get rid of this. Are we forcing or are we swordsing? I think we're swordsing more. So if I do that, that's 59. I can keep a Force of Will as a safety net. Force of Will versus Spell Pierce versus Force of Negation. This is fine. How's March? A 3-mana answer to a Bowmaster, which is slow. It's nice against an Urza Saga or like Shuko or whatever if my opponent is Breakfast. I have another very non-basic heavy hand. Sure. This will be Tundra Pass, end of turn, Cycle Lorien revealed for Volcanic Island. Undercity Sewers. Are you just a straight... okay. Maybe Stoneblade. Could still be Breakfast. Breakfast often does not have Batterskull, though. Yeah, I can ending a Stoneforge Mystic. Getting Cryptic Coat. Sure, we can do some warding. Again, I'll pick up a Volk here. So, it's possible I am not supposed to attack the Stoneforge Mystic itself. That would really suck if they happen to have Cauldra in hand. And I don't answer this with ending, but I'd much rather ending Coat itself and then Supreme Verdict away the bodies. I'm going to take a risk here. Fuck me. We got. Yeah. I'm going to get punched in the face for 5, and then I can ending the Germ token. Hullbreacher is a good card. I don't think I get to wait a turn on this Prismatic Ending, though. And we've got Spell Pierce to back this up if my opponent can force or something. You have another Surveil land? You do. And they like that one. Yep. Sure. And my opponent is just intending on flashing this in at the end of my turn, which is perfectly fine and good. Am I playing Narset to just cantrip and divert some damage? Sure. I'm not the most excited about this play. I think it's fine. Blood Moon. Blood Moon's looking pretty decent. Forth Eorlingas and Ponder are both perfectly fine as well. I think I'm going to pick up the Blood Moon. I think that's my win condition this game. Like, this is just a 2/2 body. Well, kind of a 3/2 body. But like, I can take some small amount of damage from these creatures while I'm stabilizing the board. Like, this can go here. I take 1. That's perfectly fine. I would love to find another basic plains. That way I can guaranteed Supreme Verdict after a Blood Moon and give my opponent less time to find basics. Rats. This is a little concerning. Like, I have seen Batterskull, Caldera, and Cryptic Coat. That's going to resolve. This Supreme Verdict is hot. I guess my opponent was planning on bouncing Cryptic Coat, putting it back in with Stoneforge. Force of Negation is a reasonable Magic the Gathering card. But this is strong. We do have to eventually worry about just like equip 7. But my current plan is just like Force of Negation, pitching Spell Pierce on the Cryptic Coat so that I stop having to deal with that. My Blood Moon is significantly less good now. Okay, we'll probably Force of Negation that instead. I maybe pitch the Hullbreacher so that I can still Spell Pierce Cryptic Coat. My opponent is almost certainly going to play that this turn. Just awkward if my opponent fights over this Teferi and wins, but I think this is fine. Yeah, so now we're going to see fetch Cryptic Coat, and then I get them with Spell Pierce. Ooh. Yeah, okay. Boop. So we've got to keep bodies off the field. My opponent has 6 of the 7 mana necessary to do Caldera nonsense. So who does the Blood Moon favor here? I think me, because it takes my opponent off of True Name Nemesis, which would be a card that I would have great difficulty beating. But this does shut off Mystic Sanctuary on my end for Supreme Verdict. Yep. I imagine this fails to find. I am correct. But I do need to remove this or this happens. Let's see what we find. None of that is reasonable. That is a mountain. Uh-oh. An opponent is on so few resources here that they are very likely to just go for the equip. Yeah. This is a 3-turn clock. I'm at 9. We might bottom out and die. And the lands that I have hit have been basic land fetch lands, so they wouldn't have fetched Mystic Sanctuary for Prismatic Ending anyway. Let's see if I'm dead. Okay. It is another Reanimate. That's going to be hard to beat, because that just represents another creature to equip Caldera to next turn. Yeah, we bottomed out pretty bad there. GG's. So now I know what I'm up against. So we've got Stoneblade with access to, like, Reanimate scam stuff. Thrust down in response to Stoneforge Mystic is kind of interesting. Blood Moon is quite good against my opponent's mana base, but, like, they know it's coming now, so they can prepare for it from the early game, making it less interesting. Kind of one of my issues here is, like, this sort of stuff is very bad versus the Stoneforge stuff. Kind of whatever on a lot of these counterspells. Maybe my white for Supreme Verdict is important enough that I don't Blood Moon either. Like, if I do something like this, I can respect the graveyard and further respect Stoneforge Mystic. This might be overboarding. I'm not confident about this. I like these cards. I don't like my mana situation. I think I'm going to try for something safer. This is safer. I'm going to keep this and get rid of Forth Eorlingas. We can draw that later. This is not really the best hand. I'm not super well equipped to go after turn 1 Stoneforge. I'll aggressively Pyroblast like a Ponder or something on turn 1 to try to disrupt my opponent's mana. Sure. Yep, and we are just trying to take game actions that slow my opponent down because I don't have an answer to a turn 2 Stoneforge yet. JK, I do. We'll pass the turn. The dream is to, like, Hullbreacher, get my opponent, and then curve out into Comet. Like, a sequence of 1, 2, 3 would be really good if I hit my land drop. I wonder if I win the previous game if I Swords of Plowshares the Stoneforge to play around Caldera on, like, turn 2 or 3, whatever it was. Alright, seems like my opponent is just going to pass here. Bowmasters is a thing that my opponent might have, so we're just going to hold up Hullbreacher and pass. Hey, it's Bowmasters. 19. And this is exactly what we were talking about in this week's podcast episode, where if you are aware that this stuff, if you are aware of the Bowmaster play patterns, like you don't get got, you don't give your opponent the larger orcs and the extra pings. Grief. That's a little awkward. I really wanted to ambush this in combat. Now, if I don't swords it, my opponent won't attack with it. I think I will just swords the Bowmaster now. What did my opponent pitch here? A troll. Okay. The reanimate on Hullbreacher would be slightly awkward. My opponent maybe can't risk Comet getting in play and doing Comet stuff. My opponent does ultimately conclude that the Comet is the biggest problem here. And then we'll see what the follow-up is. This could be a true name, could be a cryptic coat. It is a Narset. Sure. That makes my Ponder actively bad. Flusterstorm is not very good against what I've got going on right now. Like, this is fine. Alright, now I have 2 flash creatures. The fact that my opponent doesn't know about the Containment Priest here is pretty hot. Oh. Alright. I'm not on my moons right now, so I'm just going to get another Tundra. I'm going to put a creature into play, and then my opponent is going to immediately take it out of play, unfortunately. I'm falling very far behind to these 2 Planeswalkers. Imagine if I was a black deck and I could just like Bowmaster and kill these. What a dream. So Fluster and Blue Elemental Blast over there from my opponent. Not currently great against me, who is primarily planning on playing creatures. We're just going to play the card that my opponent knows about. Sure. This Orc is presumably going to go on chump block duty now. I can get ambushed mid-combat without much of an ability to do anything about that. Instant speed reanimate is a thing that could happen, but I guess that would have happened in my draw step. I think I'm attacking this one first. I'm not sure how much the order matters. Disgusting. Yeah. But now my opponent can block and then resolve their Ponder at end of combat. Rough. So I have to do this at sorcery speed. My opponent can respond with a Ponder. Is my situation desperate enough that I cast a Ponder when it doesn't draw a card? Let's say no. If my opponent just passes the turn without effectively doing anything, I could Mystic Sanctuary or Swords to Plowshares on top of my deck, Swords the Orc, and then go for a kill on Narset, which opens up my Ponder to be an actual card. My opponent has some situational counterspells that aren't super strong right now. Sure. Now the Swords to Plowshares line is significantly less good. Probably won't do that anymore. I could Mystic Sanctuary for a Pyroblast. My opponent doesn't have Blue Elemental Blast and Flusterstorm up right now. I think that's fine. Here we go, Pyroblast. Now the question is, like, which one of these do I take out? The one that is denying me draws or the one that is about to draw another card? I think I'm going to take out the Teferi. Cool. Would I trade Grief for Containment Priest? I think so. And I'll do this offensively so that my opponent does not have a chance to draw a removal spell and then keep Grief and Narset. All right. That's not great. Sure. I'll take a little damage here. The Cauldron is a real problem. And I whiffed on my draw. I'm potentially on a 2-turn clock here. I take 6 this turn, 7 next turn, and a Bowmaster kills me. Yikes. I'm at 8. This represents another Surveil land. I know my opponent has Blue Elemental Blast Fluster. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I get flustered. I don't have a second Mystic Sanctuary, right? I don't have a second Mystic Sanctuary, and Narset is also in play. All right, so I'm going to do a big brain play here. I'm going to cast a Lorien Revealed. I am aware that this will not draw me any cards. However, I am trying to bait the Flusterstorm out of my opponent's hand and just see if they snap it off immediately, as it's been sitting in their hand and they might get trigger hungry. All right, no, that was not successful. At which point I'm going to concede because I don't have the ability to cast Supreme Verdict and kill everything that is on my opponent's board. All right. I think I am just going to pass and hold up Spell Pierce before I know what my opponent is doing. I don't really know what I'm looking for off a Ponder yet. Looks like we're chilling. So this needs to be red mana if I want to Blood Moon. I would love to Blood Moon backed up by Spell Pierce long term. I don't really want to immediately fetch and get my Volk wastelanded. I'm not even sure that I'm going to play the Ponder. I think I'm just going to pass the turn again. It's weird because, like, if I don't play the Ponder now, it doesn't come in under Bowmasters. This gives me either blue-blue or white-white before I go for Blood Moon. We're chilling. I'm going to let my opponent have that. I want the Spell Pierce for Blood Moon next turn. Like, that is very actively my plan. I assume that we're playing against some sort of, like, multicolor up the Beanstalk deck. And Blood Moon might just win me the game instantaneously or very close to it. Now I don't have to fetch a Volk out. I think I want more blue mana here. So let's do it. Let's attempt a Blood Moon. Brainstorm's fine. We're hoping that my opponent responds more and Spell Pierce gets live. I'll Ponder afterwards. Oh shit, okay. Well, I thought this was going to be a longer game, but here we are. So we're playing against Beans. I would love these Hullbreachers. Days Undoing Narset is a reasonable way to win a game. Extra Blood Moons are great. Hydroblasts are good. I don't think I want Hydroblast. I can play Surgical if I want to respect Uro. Some number of my Force of Wills are coming out. The Spell Pierce is nice early to stop up the Beanstalk. It will become dead later. I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm just going to plan on not 2-for-1ing myself. Bringing in these... How am I getting these in? A Dress Down can go. The Pierce. I kind of want to keep a decent number of swords in respect of Orcish Bowmasters and Murktide Regent. And like these 3 cards respect up the Beanstalk that resolves. I don't know, maybe I can go down 1 swords anyway. I think this is fine. Like, I know exactly what I'm looking for with my initial cantrips. I just need land. And as long as I find that land, and it can basically be any land, I just need to hit land drops. Like, as long as I do that, this is fine. Yeah, there's multiple land. So we'll go no shuffle there. I don't have an instantaneous answer for an up the Beanstalk. Bowmaster is a thing. So I know that I don't like my next card down. I think I am going to Ponder with a Swords to Plowshares up to answer a Bowmaster that's flashed in. Yep. Boop. And in post-sideboard games, I'm expecting these to resolve. Yeah, honestly, this is fine. We'll just continue pushing that other land further down. Ooh. My opponent has Punishing Fire in their deck. That means my Planeswalkers are a little less safe than I thought they were. Am I fine jamming Narset without protection? I'd like to Days Undoing with protection next turn. Endurance being flashed in would be a little awkward. That is what it is. This lets me go past that Brainstorm that I really don't want to draw right now. I could get rebbed. A Drown in the lock. Sure. That makes this Days Undoing much worse. And I'll potentially have to cast a Brainstorm into... Alright, there's Uro. Anyway, a Brainstorm into Bowmasters, but that only happens now if my opponent has a black land, which they do. So Days Undoing does shuffle the graveyard. That's a thing that I should keep in mind. I think this situation is bad enough that I cast Brainstorm into Bowmasters. Alright, we locked out. 1 Days Undoing goes back for sure. I'm probably just putting back and then bolt back and immediately Brainstorming. While I know that my opponent does not have Bowmasters. We would love for this last card down to be a fetch, and it is. Island, 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 island. I'll put back a U and a U. Play Vista to shuffle and pass. I don't think I'm interested in ending on the Orc right now. How do we feel about that? 1, 2, 3 cards in graveyard. I gotta let that happen. There's some times where I just need to answer an Uro immediately. This is maybe not one of those times. Dak Faden. We'll Pyroblast that. That's perfectly fine. That's not really something that I want to give my opponent access to. I'll make sure I have all my colors in case I rip a Blood Moon. All right, so now, like, do I Days Undoing? I don't think my opponent has Bowmasters, but they have drawn some cards since I did my last Bowmaster check. I think I don't go for the Days Undoing. I think I just intend on Prismatic Ending away the Uro and not taking the risk of my opponent flashing in Bowmasters and just effectively winning the game on the spot. Patience is a virtue. So now, like, Uro plus Bowmasters, and I have one removal spell. I can Prismatic Ending and then Mystic Sanctuary it back, and that becomes my game plan here. Oh, Teferi's good. Teferi's really, really good. So we'll play this. If my opponent has any sort of Pyroblast stuff, it gets baited out here. A hardcast Force of Will. This is acceptable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll fetch. Just do another basic here. Blue, white. Get rid of Bowmasters. Mystic Sanctuary. I bet I could have played this way. Or no, I can't draw the card. I'm going to choose Swords over Prismatic Ending, actually. Just more mana efficient, which might matter next turn if I rip like a 4th Eorlingas or a Comet or something. Or Lorien revealed. Sure. Alright, so no land drop there from my opponent. I'm at 9. I draw the Swords. I cast the Swords. Do I cast Days Undoing? If I do, my opponent effectively draws 3 cards, and I effectively draw 7 cards. I think this is an appropriate time for me to do this. It's a little weird. I'll let my opponent untap with the mana first. But I think with my opponent's greater number of cards here, I just kind of accept this. And sometimes it's just like eats a Pyroblast anyway, yeah. Well, I have called shots this league, that's for sure. Brainstorm into fetch to clear. I've got nothing, so whatever big Planeswalker they can resolve right now is great. Alright, so they're going to take me off of red mana, or at least so they think. I have the basic. I think that was a very aggressive Assassin's Trophy. Heyo, that is in, let's do this differently. That's honestly kind of an insane draw. Punishing Fire in my face in response. Sure. You can return that. That's a problem. So I take this out of play. We going for it? So if I cast this next turn, for X is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 10 immediate damage. If I cast this now, it's 4 immediate damage plus a card draw. I think I need to take the card draw and draw another copy of 4th Eorlingas in order to be competitive in this game versus just punishing fire loops. So let's get in there. So I am the Monarch. I draw a card. Supreme Verdict, very much not what I want right now. Punishing Fire is like both good against these creature tokens that are on board and like my Planeswalkers and my life total. The Punishing Fire is very good right now. Sure. Here's to hoping that Monarch can take over this game like Monarch often does. That's good. Let's attempt Narset. Try to find something relevant. Days Undoing. Days Undoing is really insane here because it shuffles the graveyard away, which gets Uro and Punishing Fire right now. So here's to hoping. Fuck yeah. Oh, I think we stabilized this game. What a dramatic reversal. GG's. So conceptually with this hand, my game plan has to be resolve a 4th Eorlingas on turn 3, become the Monarch. This gives me some flexibility. Yeah. No shuffle, but, you know, the 4th Eorlingas is still definitely the primary plan here. I'm gonna get my butt kicked by Wasteland. Like, I've got an ETB tapped land here. Ooh, okay. Alright, so it's lands, it's not like a prison strategy. So if I can Become the monarch on turn 3. Everything's probably fuck. Okay, fine. Damn. Okay. Not great. I think I am in for an uphill battle here. I don't want this other brainstorm that's under here. So, fun trick. Prismatic Ending and effects like Thalia. So I am going to cast a Prismatic Ending for x equals 0, paying the 1 for Sphere of Resistance using 2 different colors, and that does successfully exile that without realistically paying the tax. It's possible I'm supposed to attack Mox Diamond so that my opponent can't like Life from the Loam or cast other colored spells. But here we are. My opponent was waiting to place spells there, so that's a thing. I think I am going to attempt Sorcery Speed Brainstorm, just looking for fetch lands and stuff. Dress Down's not super strong here. Mystic Sanctuary's a while from being live. I'm going to do this and pass the turn. When I cast Forth Eorlingas, it needs to be for at least x equals 2 to get through Maze of Ith and start drawing cards off Monarch. That's fine. That doesn't effectively do anything right now. So let's find some lands. I think I will get a Tropical Island. A Brainstorm. Brainstorm's okay. I think I'm fine casting it. Sure. Put back land. I'm just going to play basic planes and cycle with Lorien Revealed rather than fetching with Prismatic Vista. Like I've already got a way to shuffle. This turn right here is a really big turn. This is my opponent's chance to do something before I get Monarch online. Okay, it's in play. So let's Island cycle here. I'll pick up Mystic Sanctuary. Oh, Teferi. Teferi's okay. I guess I can take Monarch this turn because Maze of Ith is tapped. That's kind of wild. I wasn't really thinking about that. Do I want to fetch with this? I don't really need to. Go forth, Eorlingas. It is Monarch time. Yeah, and my opponent had the ability to leave up the Maze of Ith. Sure. 1 island, 2 island. This will be 3 islands. A Teferi costs 5. I think I'm fine doing that. And I am just going to pull the basics out of my deck. I don't want to tap a fetch land and have it get wastelanded right now. I guess there's the red mana thing. Sure. I'm just going to put this into play and I think plus it rather than drawing a card immediately. The attack doesn't really do anything here. Force of Will is not a bad card when I have a Teferi that can allow me to play things on my opponent's turn. Sure. I'll take this. Another Teferi. I can bounce a Sphere out of play and get in a little more damage, and that's like okay. I think it's really good if I draw a land. Let's do this. Supreme Verdict is not what I am looking for. Yeah. I think I would like to do 4 damage a turn. I think I'm just going to waste Mystic Sanctuary rather than use it to get a spell back. Okay, my opponent's done with me. Blood Moon is basically good, but runs into some awkwardness with Merit Lage nonsense. Meltdowns are okay versus Chrome Mox and potentially Urza Saga tokens. Surgical Extraction is okay. Humility is kind of funny. I might play that. Dress Down's okay versus Urza Saga tokens. Days Undoing is okay versus graveyards. So that's what I'm thinking about. What's not good? Force of Will's not particularly good, whereas Force of Negation is great because it exiles Life from the Loam. So I will probably get rid of these. Spell Pierce is pretty mid. I don't know, do I need some number of Force of Wills to respect Spheres? Kind of seems like I can answer them once they're in play. This is 5 of these 7 cards. Probably 1. I think I really respect Urza Saga. 2, 3, 4, 5. It's possible I'm starting to get into too much spot removal territory boarding like this. So I have Meltdown, Dress Down, double Supreme Verdict that clears all Urza Saga stuff at the same time. Maybe I'll play 1 more Days Undoing when I'm on the play. I want to see how this feels. This one feels like a no to me. I think I'm just dead to Sphere of Resistance if I keep this. Well, I guess I could Force of Negation, but like I would rather just have more mana in my opening hand. This is a perfectly reasonable 5-card hand. So this becomes, am I trying to cheese this one with Blood Moon, or would I like to keep something consistent? I think on the draw I'm down multiple cards. I'm down to try to steal this game with Blood Moon. I'm going to keep March to interact with my opponent's early stuff and try to win the game with a Blood Moon. Exploration? Yep. Sure, that's not a particularly strong land while in play. For an exploration start, this is like A-okay. Dress down's reasonable. Helps against Urza Saga. My opponent probably doesn't have Urza Saga. It probably would have come down on turn 1 if they had it. But I've been wrong before. Sphere is happening. My Blood Moon now costs 4 mana. What is the exact wording of this little guy? This is not going to play favorably with Sphere, like Prismatic Ending does. I think I'll just ponder in this turn cycle. There's my 4th land for casting Blood Moon. I think I will just accept this and pass. That's fine. That is minimal impact right now. Oh? Find a loam? You did. So that's happening. This represents a basic. Can't cast Narset because of Sphere. I can end of turn get rid of this Sphere if I want to. My opponent flipping Boseiju is one of the scariest things right now. I hope they don't get the basic forest. They should, yeah. That's going to happen. And then there's just the remaining land drops. So I can keep this in hand as an answer to a 2020. I think I am just going to Moon and get rid of the Sphere and assume that... Oh, right, I can't do that end of turn. Do an end of turn dress down then to just cycle. Prismatic Endings cost in mind. Forth Eorlingas. Oh, Force of Negation on Life from the Loam is incredibly good. There's Sphere of Resistance though. Do I give my opponent one shot at Life from the Loam? Yeah, I don't think I slam Moon this turn. I think Force of Negationing this Life from the Loam is very important for the long game. Because once the Blood Moon comes down, Boseiju is the way that I lose. Or like a Force of Vigor if my opponent is doing that. Yeah, you got it. You can remove those ice counters. That is not going to be relevant this game. It's still tactically correct to do. Boseiju and a Wrenn and Realm Breaker. Or are you going to like sacrifice a Riftstone Portal or a Bojuka Bog? A Riftstone Portal, sure. I guess I don't have to fetch. I know that I want the mountain. I hate Yavimaya so much online. Get out. Another Force of Negation is great. I think it's time to just stick this, though. As funny as it is to let my opponent bleed to their own Glacial Chasm, I think shutting off all these abilities of my opponent's lands is quite good here. You may remove another ice counter. I accept. So this is going to stop my opponent from playing Urza Sagas as well. Like, I have an answer to a 2020. I have a win condition. I have a source of card advantage. I need more mana. Hey, it's more mana. I think this first one is just done for X's 1 to hold up Force of Negation on my opponent's turn. It's not the speed of the clock here. It's the card draw that matters. Brown. Monarch time. And, yep, picking up another basic is great. My opponent played an Urza Saga, which dies directly because of Blood Moon, and we get the Shame concession. GG. Alright, final round. We're 2-2. My hand is kind of medium. I think I am just going to mulligan this one. I very much like having the Force of Negation here. I'm going to keep this one. I think I'm going to get rid of my Blood Moon. I am not going to ponder. I don't quite know what I am looking for yet. My opponent often plays combo, but I think I'm just going to chill. I don't even know that I'm going to cycle Lorien Revealed. I think I would like some degree of indication about what's going on with the matchup before I start taking game actions. Some portion of the time, I'm just pitching Lorien Revealed to Force of Negation. All right. So this could potentially be the like sneak and show and tell sort of thing that I was expecting from them. In which case, now that I've got a decent idea what my opponent might be doing, I think it's okay to ponder. Do that off Flooded Strand here. Nah. We're looking for like the Narset type cards here. Well, we found Forth Eorlingas anyway. And it's just going to be lands and pass. I might need to go for this here. I think the waiting game heavily favors my opponent right now. I'm going to fetch. I'll grab a non-basic here. And we'll jam. I think I'm going to play around Daze. Because playing around Daze allows me to play both this spell around Daze and my counter spell around Daze. It is Monarch time. All right. While that's happening, Force of Negation doesn't work on my own turn. All right. The Illusion of Choice. Magic Ending not doing a ton here. Crystal Vein. Spicy. I imagine my opponent has protection for this. All right. Yeah. Fuck. That's so good. Now I probably just get Emrakul or Atraxa or whatever. All right. It is Atraxa. Into Lotus Petal Emrakul, and I am dead. Got it. Humility's great here. Pyroblast is great here. Hydroblast is good here. Dress Down has meaningful text. Hullbreacher has meaningful text. Containment Priest has meaningful text. Okay, we have a lot of sideboard options. So this Prismatic Ending March of Otherworldly Light stuff is not the best. Blood Moon is not at its strongest here. Dream Verdict's weird. Sometimes good. I don't think I need to mess around with the Days Undoing stuff. I think I can just play as many good cards as possible. Humility is great for show and tell in particular. I don't think I need Comet. I am bringing in other win conditions. I don't think we've activated Comet all league, unfortunately. I'm putting these in order of priority. You, then you3, then you, then probably you. And now it's like, maybe shave a Swords for a Hullbreacher. Maybe get rid of second. Green Verdict is just like a good way to answer Emrakul specifically. I would prefer that like show and tell and sneak attack and stuff not resolve. Sometimes they do. Go down one of these. Nope. That math's out. It's not the worst hand I've ever seen. I'm not happy with it. And I think I'm just going to play this as a tapped land on turn 1 and just guarantee that I have a better chance at curving out. Maybe that's wrong with Lorien revealed here. But like, there's a lot of games where I draw a 3-drop Planeswalker, like Teferi or whatever, and I don't actually end up having time to easily cycle this. Yeah, I think I'm just not going to give my opponent another fetch. I think I am going to Sorcery Speed Containment Priest. I'm not Blood Mooning. They could be Blood Mooning. Probably not. I think I'm just going to do this at Sorcery Speed. Not give them another draw at Force of Will, because they topped a card there, which like could be Force of Will. And here's that 3-drop Planeswalker that I was talking about. Sure. The mana acceleration is real. I have to keep in mind that at some point my opponent like could realistically just cast an Atraxa. This is fine. This also means that like my stuff is going to resolve, so like I will get to Narset. My opponent presumably has some small number of cards that can answer Containment Priest, you know, be that a Fury or whatever. Ooh. I don't know about this decision. I think I Narset. I think denying my opponent looks at outs to Containment Priest is a pretty big deal. Force of Will? Awkward because of that. I think I'm just going to take a Swords to Plowshares in respect of some sort of pivot plan. You know, if my opponent just has something like... So, fuck, I had a Swords already. No, I should have taken Force of Will. Sure. Hey, the pivot plan. So I was right in wanting a Swords, but I maybe didn't need it exactly right now. Note that Uro is cast, so my Containment Priest is not going to stop that. Battle's fine. Anna is just never going to be the bottleneck here. That's my show and tell target. Slash my plan for the not too distant future. I do need white, so I will grab Tundra. Play this. Send forth the Eorlingas. 4/4. Pick up extra lands, which is great. Black mana. We might be in attempt to hardcast something scary territory, like an Archon or an Atraxa. Yep. None of this answers the Containment Priest, which is, I guess, nice, but my opponent can just find another Atraxa, which they will presumably cast at some point. They'll need like another. Oh, they do have another Lotus Petal. Sure. All right. They took Misty and Lotus Petal, so that gets rid of this stuff. Take a sneak attack. Atraxa. Brainstorm. So that means this is gone and this is gone. My opponent does have 3 mana. Teferi's a great draw. So let's go Ya. Ya. And this importantly shuts off any sort of interaction that's remaining in my opponent's hand. Now, do I just bounce the Atraxa or do I swords it? I think I'll permanently answer it. And just plus the Teferi. Ship in for 4. Picking up a Narset is fine. All I'm trying to do is like set up for a humility spot. My opponent probably won't have very many ways to answer that. There might be like a Boseiju or an Ottawa or something. So there's the black mana, the white mana. My opponent will cast an Atraxa again. And we'll see what they find. This stuff is all fine. One Ring's not that scary if I can just Narset. Alright, so they take Show and Tell and Brainstorm. So that means this is gone. What land do they take? Take a Misty. So those are gone. Oh, they did not take that sneak attack. There's one of the Brainstorms. My opponent has to do this now if they want to because of my Teferi. They took the One Ring, so they don't have Defense Grid. I think my Lorien Revealed is just going to find me another white source here. Assuming I have another Tundra. I don't. Because I, in theory, do want triple white. Alright, Uro's gone, One Ring's gone, Show and Tell's gone. Hydroblast is a reasonable draw. So let's start here, I think. Just make sure that's gone. Now, 1, 2, 3, all Narset. Let's see what we find. Just a cantrip. Take a Ponder. I don't think I mind just bouncing the defense grid out of play in a second. And making my opponent recast that. Sure? I guess I'm going to take 2 of these, so I shouldn't sweat the order too much. So I'm going to take all of them, rather, if I bounce defense grid, which I will. So that makes it much harder for my opponent to sneak attack and activate and defense grid all in the same turn cycle. Veil of Summer's awkward here. That occurs. One Ring happens. My opponent gets protection from everything for a turn. My opponent can Uro. It puts the body into play, but does not actually draw a card. Now my opponent can re-defense grid if they would like. And they do. Opponent's through about half their library. I'm not too far behind. Let's see what's going on here. A Force of Will's fine. I'll make a land drop. I will plus a Teferi. My opponent only has 2 mana available. I think this is my moment to just stick the humility. I've got that with Force of Will back up. And then I can hold Force of Will and Pyroblast up for my opponent's turn. Alright, and at this point I'll just chill. I'll hold my 1/1s back to stop Uro. Yeah, you can draw your card, that's fine. Notably here, Narsets is more than 1 card each turn. That's the exact wording on that. So sort of the fun thing here is that if my opponent like Boseju's or Ottawa's Humility out of play, then my Containment Priest gets turned back on and is just like a perfectly reasonable magic card. So do I want to just counter this anyway and not let this be chilling in play? Probably. I guess it does cost me 2 cards. I can't just Hydroblast and 1 mana off of doing that. It's still probably okay to say no to that. I don't know, it takes me off of Force of Will on future turns. I have 2 layers of protection versus this. I'm going to let it go. Yeah, I will trade a Night Token for your Uro. That's fine. My opponent has 2 Uros anyway, so it's not like I am just like immediately adding that to the graveyard. I'm drawing so many extra cards from the Monarch, and this is not drawing cards, so like I think we're good. Hullbreacher is a reasonable Magic the Gathering card. We're just going to go land drop plus. I think I'm fine for a 6 mana 1/1 end of my opponent's turn. I guess I can also resolve this and then Pyroblast the Uro while it's still my turn. I guess I can also just Hullbreacher right now in response to that. And that gives me a treasure token. Or no, it won't, but Humility, good card. Yeah, I'll Pyroblast your 1/1 for mana efficiency. The 1/1 is gonna start to do small amounts of damage. Okay, my opponent's just done with me. Yeah, we've got this one locked up pretty well. Comet is a card that I would really like if I resolve a Humility, but once the Humility is in play, I think life's just tough for my opponent. I don't know that I'm going to make any major changes here. Okay, I have some reasonable early game interaction here. I'm not on white immediately. I have double mountain, which is a little awkward. I can fetch Tundra, I guess, and be on both colors, but not have both simultaneously to Teferi. Sure. Very fast shuffle, probably indicative of looking for like a land or equivalent. I want to hold up both of these simultaneously. I'm going to let that go. Ooh, it is a looking for a land situation. So now I will probably get more aggressive about spell piercing the next cantrip that's played. Okay, there's a land. I will... Do I want to brainstorm first? No, I don't think I want to be dazable. I don't think I am willing to tap out for Teferi right now when I have double Pyroblast to fight over just top decked land into Show and Tell. I'll just happily end of turn brainstorm, shuffle away some of these mountains, and build up a better hand. Probably shuffle away one mountain, keep one mountain. I don't know that I'm thrilled about Dress Down right now. I think I'm getting non-basics this game. Grab a Volk. And this represents Tundra. I think I am willing to jam Narset here. I'm going to grab a Tundra. Oh, just snap resolved. I'm going to grab a Supreme Verdict and just like let that chill in my hand. I don't think it's a particularly good card, but it is my way of killing a show and tell creature that like slips through the Pyroblasts. Yes. So my next plan is like find something that helps me deal with sneak attack. My Pyroblasts don't answer that. My opponent can draw one card per turn cycle around my Narset. Dress Down is mid right now. It's not really what I'm looking for. Oh, I could just try to win. Is that good? I'd feel like if it was good if I had a Force of Will. I think it's too easy for me to lose to sneak attack if I just do that immediately. I'm not that far away from wanting it, but I think I'm just going to grab a Brainstorm. If I Teferi and bounce Carpet, my opponent can't easily do sneak attack next turn specifically. I think I'll start with a Brainstorm though. We got a lot of clunk. Put back this. Dress Down is something to put in off Show and Tell or respond to a sneak attack with. Put back the other Brainstorm. Grab Tundra. I think I cast this. I'm a little unsure, but it feels fine. And again, we'll just bounce that Carpet out of the way. Force of Negation is fantastic. Now I feel a lot safer, because now I just get to say no without my opponent fighting over it, because I do control this Teferi. So now I can start thinking about casting something like a Forth Eorlingas and actually winning the game. Do I just counter this, though? Maybe I just counter this. I'm really well covered versus Show and Tell, and I have some insulation versus sneak attack. I know mana is a bottleneck for my opponent. I accept that. That was a good bait spell from my opponent. And we'll just see how this plays out from here. My draws are really good on average. And I have Mystic Sanctuary. Oh no, that's annoying. And I have Mystic Sanctuary to like find an exact card that I am looking for. Oh, this is 4. My opponent could shove a sneak attack this turn. And they did. Ooh. I might have punted. We always plus that Teferi. I can do a Forth Eorlingas for X equals 3. That's not what this game is really about right now, though. I think I'm just going to shuffle. I could ponder Ponder always looks at 2 cards. I don't have anything in my graveyard that I could Mystic Sanctuary and then just immediately answer a sneak attack with. I think I'm going to go ahead and shuffle this. Dress down's not bad. I think I'll do a dress down at my end step. All right, cool. Yeah. I guess my opponent can't do a lot right now. Like, I do still have the Teferi in play, so, like, the Containment Priest is effectively uncounterable. Maybe I should have boarded Prismatic Ending back in respect of Carpet of Flowers specifically. I guess it also hits Defense Grid. And Uro. Yeah. I'll just blast that. Sure. Actually, I'm not sure if I blast it or swords it. The dress down trigger on the stack. I'll fetch. Mystic Sanctuary on Force of Negation is probably an above average play. I'll go ahead and Containment Priest. And then this does not give my opponent a window to activate Sneak Attack successfully. Actually, maybe I exile the Uro on my own turn so that it can't come back. Yeah. Oh? Oh, did I mess up? Was I supposed to Otawara? Or, like, play around Otawara differently there? Because my opponent has a legendary creature. Ooh. I might be in trouble. Let's find out. Did not get punished. Holy shit, though. That was really bad on my end. Send it. So I've got three counter spells here. My opponent is drawing a lot with the One Ring and has a whole lot of mana for Carpet. I can Pyroblast Atraxas that are played. I probably have to counter that. Sure. Okay, that one happens. Yep. So this is obviously very bad. I think I just die. Yep. Sure. I'm at 16 life. Not pyroblastable. That is pyroblastable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am down to 1 land at 1 life. I think I can throw in the towel there. So we wiggled pretty hard, but that is a 2-3 finish in this league. All right, so how do we feel about this one at the end of the league here? Mid. It feels like doing what I'm doing in the Bowmaster world is an uphill battle. My deck felt reasonable, but I feel like I had a lot of very, very good reads and calls throughout the league. You know, I'm not going to say that I did everything wrong, right, because like I certainly made plenty of mistakes while playing this league. But I feel like if I were a worse player, I would be having a really bad time playing this deck. I think in this format, if I am in blue, I really want access to Murktide Regent, just the ability to close games incredibly quickly on a high power card and back it up by Counter Magic or Grief is just something that is very powerful about the format right now. We got some Blood Moon wins. Fourth Eorlingas did Fourth Eorlingas things. But I feel like a lot of the Narset and Teferi type cards that this deck are built around are things that aren't directly winning the game. They are just keeping you from losing the game. And I think I want to be a little bit more proactive than this strategy. Especially without any sort of like Lotus Petal or Mana Acceleration that lets us take the Monarch with Fourth Eorlingas ahead of curve. There were a decent amount of times where I had to wiggle for position to be able to cast Fourth Eorlingas, whereas like with Murktide Regent, like you just cast it and it's huge. So I feel like the deck is working a little bit too hard. I don't really like the Days Undoing and Planeswalkers that end up at 1 loyalty strategy in the Bowmaster world. Our Humility did some serious work in that final round there. So I will say that I don't think the deck is bad, but I don't think it is optimal for tournament play. And Jam1 Garner, good luck if you continue to play it. I think that the deck list you submitted is perfectly reasonable, but it's not for me. But if it is for you and you find that you need some cards, please consider checking out toamagic.com. That is Tales of Adventure. They are my sponsor. They have fast, free shipping, and I highly recommend them. With that being said, folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!